This is Art Television.
Coming up, State of Business, sponsored by
SLT Mobitel Fiber. Deshi Fiber Balavegya.
IWS Aviation.
SLT Mobitel home broadband within online learning සහ online working සඳහා ඇදහිය නොහැකි data දීමනා GB 30ක් රුපියල් 195යි GB 100ක් රුපියල් 490යි කාර්යාලයක් පාසලක් ගෙදරටම ගෙනෙන ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ප්‍රමුඛතම ඉන්ටර්නෙට් සබඳතාවය SLT Mobitel එකම එක සබඳියාව.
Very good evening. Welcome to the State of Business on our television. I'm Sachin Ratnayaka. Let's look at the headlines first. Sri Lanka participates in the world's largest trade fair for food and beverage industry. Sri Lanka must have a data protection agency as well as a cyber security agency, Director General of TRCSL states. News in detail. Sri Lanka participated at the Anuga 2021, the world's largest trade fair for food and beverage industry, held at Messe-Cologne, Germany. This trade fair was held from 9th to 13th this month. The trade fair was designed under the One Roof concept, providing in-depth insights on industry orientation, connecting supply and demand, and offering diverse taste experiences in the food and beverage sectors. As Sri Lanka's presence at the trade fair has been an integral part of the country's trade promotion strategy, 8 Sri Lankan companies presented time-tested high-quality Ceylon tea products under Anuga Drinks exhibition, showcasing novel, innovative and unique array of products, attracting large crowds and business personnel towards their individual pavilions. The Sri Lanka Tea Board coordinated Sri Lanka's participation at the fair. Ambassador of Sri Lanka to Germany Manori Unambue and Consul General of Sri Lanka to Frankfurt Madhurika Weninger graced the Sri Lankan stalls on the opening day of the fair. During the meetings with the representatives of the Sri Lankan companies, Ambassador discussed the current market trends in Germany and Europe and briefed on the initiatives of the mission to promote Ceylon tea through close collaboration industry stakeholders. It was one of the first trade fairs to open its doors to visitors since the onset of the pandemic, with more than 8,000 exhibitors from across the globe marking their presence under strict health guidelines. This was one of the many trade exhibitions attended by Sri Lanka as per the plan of the Ministry of Tourism to promote Sri Lanka in order to attract more tourists. Director General of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka, Oshada Senanayake, suggested that Sri Lanka must have a data protection agency as well as a cyber security agency. Speaking to the journalist virtually yesterday, from the Presidential Media Center, TRC chief said that the main stumbling block in the telecommunication development subject is manpower but not the technology.
If we take the Data Protection Act, as I was just mentioning, we need expertise on that. There are certified data protection specialists that we need, right? If we take the cyber security bill, I mean, how are we going to basically implement it, right? To implement it, we need expertise, cybersecurity engineers, we need CISOs, chief information security officers coming in. We need the expertise in terms of setting these institutional frameworks. Now, as I mentioned, Data Protection Act, we will have to set up a data protection agency. If you take the cybersecurity bill, we have to set up a cybersecurity agency. So the cert that we have right now, right, this Computer Emergency Readiness Team, is just the first step as a country we take in terms of the cybersecurity readiness. But now that has to be mandated with more powers, and that's where the cybersecurity agency is going to come. But however, how are we going to go forward if we can't attract that required expertise to basically fuel and drive these organizations forward? right? So my biggest stumbling block right now is we are finding it quite challenging. Although quite a few people provides their opinion on how to run the country on social media, how many of us actually thinks of contributing, right? Coming and just give it 1 year, And what I'm saying is, if there's any political interference or whatever, resign and go. But what I'm saying is, come in, make a contribution. I mean, this is the only way we can go. So for me, technology is not the stumbling block. I'm quite confident we can get the likes of blockchain, or we can get the latest of the IoTs and all of that. Those are no issues. We can get the technology transfer and we can do the technology diffusion, but the manpower.
Director General of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, Oshada Senanayake, pointed out that the computer literacy rate and digital literacy rate in the country are not in the satisfactory levels. The TRC chief said that even in Colombo, the margin of technology literacy lies below 50%.
We are very proud of our literacy rates as a nation. We have, as a nation, one of the highest literacy rates in the region. But if we take our computer literacy rate, and more so over, if you go into the digital literacy rate, so there's a huge difference between computer literacy and digital literacy. If you take Gaul, it's at a low of 30%, Matara 27%. Take a guess of Colombo, we are still at a 44%. Right now, this is not something that only a government can drive forward without the intervention. I think we need to crowdsource this. So for my biggest stumbling block is that. The second thing is the archaic legislative pieces, as I said. I think this is the era for Sri Lanka in terms of governance. To bring in this information governance, it's imperative that we basically bring up to speed these archaic structures. But I think we are going very fast now, as I said. The Data Protection Act, the Cybersecurity Bill, the Telecommunication Act in itself, as I mentioned, is from 1991.
Stay tuned for more news. We'll be right back after a small commercial break.
SLT Mobitel POTV සහ DP Education වෙතින් දැයි දරුවන්ට ගෙනෙන අධ්‍යාපන නාලිකාව. විදෙස DP Education. පහස් ශ්‍රේණියේ සිට උසස් පෙළ දක්වා පාසල් දරුවන් වෙනුවෙන් නොමිලේම. සිංහල දෙමළ සහ ඉංග්‍රීසි මාධ්‍ය තුනෙන්ම රිවයින් TV සමගින් දරුවන්ට ඕනෑ වෙලාවක ඉගෙන ගන්න. විදෙස DP Education. නාලිකාංක 215 දැන් POTV සහ POTV Go app එකෙන් නොමිලේම. SLT Mobitel එකම එක සබැඳියාව. SLT Mobitel home broadband within online learning සහ online working සඳහා ඇදහිය නොහැකි data දීමනා GB 30ක් රුපියල් 195යි GB 100ක් රුපියල් 490යි කාර්යාලයක් පාසලක් ගෙදරටම ගෙනෙන ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ප්‍රමුඛතම ඉන්ටර්නෙට් සබඳතාවය SLT Mobitel එකම එක සබැඳියාව
අන්තර්ජාලය ෆයිබර් සමගින් බලගැන්වෙන තැන ඉස්සර වගේ නෙවෙයි දැන් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්ම ප්‍රීමියම් ෆයිබර් අන්තර්ජාලය SLT Mobitel Fiber දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය.
Welcome back to the State of Business. One of the leading Sri Lankan corrugated cartoon manufacturers in Sri Lanka, Expac Corrugated Cartoons Limited, announced that the company leads in terms of both production and exports, which account for 52% of revenue being generated in US dollars. This was revealed by the company's managing director, Sulfikar Gauss, at a media briefing in Colombo to announce about an initial public offering of its shares, which is due to close on the 22nd of this month.
In supplying to the local market, we realized that there is a wide market open. So we supply to countries like Maldives. We do 95% of their requirement, which I feel is great and something which we as a Sri Lankan company should be very pleased about. Then we also do exports to another 15 odd countries globally, like Seychelles. Then we do to Madagascar, which is our stepping stone to Africa, the growing region. Then we do some to India, Australia, and to USA. As I said earlier, we've a customer-centric company, and with our export proceeds that we get now, which is something similar to gold, 52% of our revenue comes from export from in US dollars, which has given us a fantastic advantage because we were able to open LCs on time, and when the goods arrived, we were able to pay for the goods, and the goods didn't get held up at the port even for a day. So thereby, what the other in Sri Lanka, the advantage which they didn't have, we had it, and then we also became the preferred buyer to most of our suppliers of raw material. We import about 60% of our raw material, and that is of the highest grade of paper we get, because on-time delivery ensures you're getting a quality carton on time and the right quantity.
Head of Research at First Capital Holdings, Dimantha Matthew, provided a detailed report over the behavior of the Colombo Stock Exchange. He also provided a forecast for the upcoming week.
Overall, however, we are seeing a sort of a decline in the overall activity levels. Number of transactions seems to have come down below the 30,000 mark to a range of around 20 to 25,000. So at the peak, we saw significant high, continuously 30,000 plus transactions taking place. So, however, there's a large number of crossings taking place during this week. So, what we can see is there's more high net worth and institutional participation that is taking over the market rather than the retail participation that was there all this time. Investors seem to be shifting into new segments. We are seeing more and more activity in the blue chip counters and especially the banking sector counters. So, there seems to be a shift from the risky retail favorite counters that are there in the market. So with that shift, if it happens on a more regular basis, we feel that there could be some sort of consolidation in the market at current levels. However, there could be continued profit taking and selling pressure in the retail favorite counters, which may come down as selling pressure increases going forward. However, the market will be benefited by the new set of stocks that could have some investor interest.
Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a positive note today. The All Share Price Index gained 2.16 points to close at 9,623.81, and the S&P SL20 gained 2.07 points to close at 3,549.17. The turnover was 3.4 billion rupees and over 142 million shares were traded. Coming up next with foreign exchange rates. With that, we wind up today's news. Thank you for watching. Take care. Good night.
State of Business was sponsored by
SLT Mobitel Fiber. Deshe Fiber Balavegya.
IWS Aviation.